Great to have you along. We've got a very, very big show tonight, an unpredictable show, Jim. I think things are going to happen tonight, and a very big show with news. Damien Barrett along. Breaking news about a Collingwood superstar that's going to please the Collingwood fans. Don't go away. This is big news coming up. And also Ross Lyon, who's been, his coaching future's been debated throughout the course of this week. We've got news on that. A little twist that makes things very, very interesting.
Also, as everyone would be aware, it's been a sad week in the AFL with the passing of one of the all-time greats of the game, Bob Davis. And we have a big Geelong influence, of course, on the footy show with Sam Newman and Bill Brownless, 500-plus games together for the Cats. So we're going to have a good look at and celebrate the life of the great Bob Davis. Yeah,
looking forward to that indeed. Also, I'm not sure whether you caught Mick Malthouse's press conference after last week's game. He spoke about a bit of bread.
What was that?
Really weird-ass sort of stuff from Mick. No one understood where he was coming from. So we sent our man Sam Newman, who fronted him on one of his walks in the Fitzroy Gardens.
What, the Foss was on a walk himself?
Very, very early in the morning, and just got him to explain exactly where he's coming from. I'm not sure it makes it any clearer, but it's Mick Malthouse like you've never seen him before. A lot of fun.
All right, now we like the biggest names to be on this show, Gary, and tonight we've got two of the biggest. 6 world champion title belts between them. Our man Danny Green is going to be here, and he's fighting Antonio Carver. Now, Antonio Carver's a 4-time world champ, and of course Rocky fans will remember him from the last Rocky movie.
Rocky Balboa.
These two don't get on, Gary.
No.
They don't get on for a start, and they're getting it on in July in Sydney, so it'll be interesting to see the body language between those two, and they don't like a person who works for us.
Exactly right. I see a boxing ring over there. I'm not sure what it's all about, but backstage has been very tense.
It has.
There's going to be a blue.
Greeny's been pacing around.
He wants someone.
He does.
And I'm going to encourage him or his mate to punch the suitcase out of this bloke. Might not be who you think, but that's coming up. Shane Crawford, in the absence of Sam, who was busy this week, has been out another street talk at St Kilda. That's an absolute beauty. It is a massive show tonight. Don't go away. Let's get it started. It's going to be a very, very big night. A little different off the top for reasons that Jim has already spoken about. The passing of an absolute legend this week in Bob Davis. And to join us, as Jim so eloquently put, we're going to celebrate the life of a great football man. Please welcome John Newman and Billy Brownless. Thank you very much. Now, boys, you're in a terrific position to be able to sit back and talk and celebrate the life of Bobby. Sam, because you played under him and he recruited you, of course. And Billy, your involvement with Geelong over a long period of time. You've seen Bobby sit back. He's no more revered figure down there at the Cattery.
No more revered. And it is a sort of a sad week, but it's a sort of a celebration, really, of a great man, Bob. I know it's easy to say that about people when they're gone. But there'd be very few, there'd be no one, he's a bit like this man, there'd be no one in Australia that wouldn't like Bob, and we're going to pay a bit of homage, to him tonight, so if you can just bear with us, a bit indulgent from the Geelong boys. But...
No, it isn't at all, Sam. I think it's appropriate. And Bill, we had a chat during the week about it with regard to Bob's relationship with Sam, and Sam loves Bob, but Bob loved Sam too. It was very clear.
There's not many that really love Sam. But Bob did, and he's a very placid man.
Well, he was a placid man. Anger and temper weren't in Bob's characteristics, but I'm just going to tell this anecdote of Bob. This is true. Bob was the coach of Geelong, and I think it was about the middle of 1965, and we didn't get beaten very often under Bob, but we were getting a belting this time down at Kardinia Park, and at half-time he came in And we had a chairman of selectors in those days called Tom Morrow, who was a big, strong disciplinarian and a very fine man, Tom, and he was the chairman of selectors. And the crowd used to come in to the rooms at half-time and...
General public?
Well, the supporters, and they used to stand behind sort of some guardrails. And Bob had said to Tom, he said, don't let him in half-time this time, Tom. And Tom said, right, Bob. And he's holding the door back, and you can hear people banging on the door. And he's got us sitting down, and it was like looking at saplings in a forest. He's starting to address us. And he said, some of you are not putting in. And you can hear this in the background, and Tom's holding it back, and Tom's yelling out, name 'em, Bob. And this was disconcerting Bob, and he turned and he said, and I'm telling you what, he said, there'll be a few people taken off the... Name 'em, Bob. He said, and I'll tell you another thing, he said, a few of you think you're safe in this side, he said, but next week I'll be dropping a couple of you. Name 'em. This had got to Bob. He turned around, he said, will you fair dinkum shut up, Tommy? You're driving me fair dinkum ratty. We got flogged by about 20 goals. Tom, eventually they broke the door down and pushed Tom over, and Bob just walked out the back. Never lost his temper, but he was just a fine man.
What sort of player was he? Because we hear so much about his post-footy career and his coaching career, but what sort of footy player was he?
Well, he was a great player. He was in the Geelong team of the century.
He was, half-forward flank.
Not sure why you'd get into that if you weren't a good player, Gary.
189 games, Gaz.
Yep.
Captain, quick. 2 premierships, of course, in 51, 52, and those boys still meet up down at the club.
What about from a modern-day perspective? Is there any player that you'd liken him to?
Well, Mike Sheehan likened him to... likened him to the man from from the Adelaide Crows.
Dangerfield.
No.
Rashudo.
Sorry, Mark. He likened him to Mark Rashudo.
Yep.
I would liken him perhaps not quite in the same ilk, but to the captain of Carlton. He was just that sort of player. He was. He got a lot better when he stopped, according to Bob. He used to embellish his career, but he was a fine player and called the Geelong Flyer, quick, talented, skillful, and played ethically.
Premiership coach too, Foss, in 1963, and I think we've got some vision here. But tell us, Bill, what happened around this game, because it's quite extraordinary.
This is in the rooms, the piano accordion, man. This is Bob. Have a look at that. That's Fred Wooler. That's John Devine, the vice-captain. And that is Happy Hammond. This is grand final day, 1963. And,
oh, no.
And look.
Alistair and Stuart Lord.
Come on.
Happy Hammond was a third
Happy
man.
Hammond.
Yeah. Fred Wooler, captain. John Devine, second out. And then Happy Hammond.
And the Lord twins out third and fourth.
Gary, that would be like Melbourne playing in a grand final in 2012 and Wilbur Wilde running out.
What was the thinking behind that? What was the rationale?
Happy was playing the piano accordion in the rooms just to add a bit of
Get 'em
mood
going?
and relaxation. Yeah, just in the rooms before
Any
the
tune
game.
in particular?
No,
or?
I'm not sure. Might have been. I do like to stroll along the seaside, something like that. A sea shanty, maybe, Gary.
And then he became even bigger because the forerunner to this show, of course, and all other shows of this genre was the footy show and league teams, of which Lou, Jack and Bob, they were all the integral parts in World of Sport, and with which you were a star of as well, Foss.
No, I wasn't a star, just a stribling I was, but they used to come in unprepared, used to do no preparation at all and just speak off the top of it, a bit like us. This is the late Jack Dye and, of course, Lou, the last one of them left, and there's Bob in the middle. And they used to speak about everything except football or the teams, and there's Jack. Look at Jack. Yeah. He looks like a porn star.
Yeah.
There he is.
Well, look at Sam.
Look at the Foss.
The Foss.
Ah, there he is.
Have a look at you, John. That is unbelievable.
And he remained, Billy remained terrifically loyal, obviously, to the Geelong Footy Club, but became a great figure down at the rooms in recent times.
He'd come and watch training. Loved the Ablett boys, of course. He'd always have some advice to Bomber Thompson, especially, and he wore his 63 premiership tie. He loved that and used to wear that around, and he'd always have a few words to say, and he really loved the side. And Well, he was on the Footy Show, and now this is only 2 years ago, boys. This is unbelievable. When he came out, this is 2009 grand final Footy Show. Here he is here. Have a look at this. 2 years ago. Look at him. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, Margaret would have, Margaret, his lovely wife, would have said, Bob, what are you doing? But there he is, he came down. I was going to say that's actually me.
Yeah,
I thought that was Dermot. But he was just revered Geelong and drive. I can tell you just one more story about Bob. Bob was the forerunner of that very popular craze called drifting. Bob used to borrow cars from the Ford Motor Company. He would have borrowed them from Nissan, but they weren't around in those days. And he used to borrow the Fairlanes, and any new model, he would come down the unsealed road to Gardenia Park, and he'd put the Fairlane into a handbrake four-wheel skid sideways through the gates, and he'd stop in a mist of shale and screenings outside the door of the... and he'd get out of the car, wouldn't lock it because it wasn't his and he didn't give the stuff, it got pinched. And he'd say, that is fair... To be perfectly truthful, he said, no one could do that any better than me. And I think he drove, and I'll just say this, and it's irresponsible now because in those days there was no spin. I think he drove from Geelong to the World of Sport in 23 minutes. One of the flogged the living...
Geelong flyer.
Tappets out of the Fairlane.
James also mentioned that you were one of his favourites, and we don't mean this to embarrass you, but he was integral in the recruiting of you to the Geelong Footy Club, and we particularly like this little grab.
I feel that we've got one boy here in particular who won't worry about Woods or Bromwell at all.
What's his name?
A boy called Newman, John Newman.
Didn't he play with your seconds last year?
Yeah, he played in the reserves last year, only 4 games, and he used to go to the grammar school, but he's here in Geelong. And I do feel that Newman will be a really top-class ruckman in the league.
Oh, a very good
boy
judge,
from the
Bobby,
grammar.
too. And he was responsible for the nickname?
He was. He gave me the nickname Sam from the Jackie Gleason show, Sammy Spear in his orchestra. Won't tell you how all that came about, but that's where it's from.
He's the reason why you're called Sam. Well, this bit we loved, Bill, too, where the premiership was won by the Cats, and no better man to have up on stage to hand it over than Bobby. But what happened here?
He won't give it up. Have a look at him.